understanding. And we're looking at all of this as we lead up to elections. But some things I'll tell you, please, I beg you, do not make any trouble with anybody. This is a sidebar. Do not make any trouble with anybody. Do not fight anyone. Do not cause chaos with anyone. Do not hurt anyone. Do not kill anyone for any politician. And it has to be said, nobody, and I repeat, nobody is worth you killing anybody for. Even apart from that, according to our Lord Jesus Christ, has told us and given us the instruction that we should not kill, we cannot kill, and we cannot. So please, I beg you, do not hurt anyone, do not kill anyone, do not do anything untoward to anyone, do not damage anyone's property. I beg you. Because if you do, there's a repercussion. There's a repercussion. 15 days to the elections. By the time I come here next week, it's going to just be 7 days to the elections. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to preach a series on nationhood. 2 weeks. I'm going to preach a series on nationhood. Please get your writing pads. It's going to be a very important series on nationhood. You know, what makes up a nation? What should we look for in a nation? What is a nation itself? How do nations evolve? And this is a series that is going to help a lot of people and shape their mindsets. Nationhood, part 1. What is a nation? A nation deals with a fact or a status of being a nation. Nationhood, I mean. National identity, independence, status of a nation. And let me tell you something. Nationhood and the use of the term nationhood evolved over the years. Because more nations started to be created as the time went on. Before nationhood, you used to have empires. Empires were agglomerations of various conquered territory. You had the Roman Empire. You had the Ottoman Empire. You had the Byzantine Empire. You had many empires. These empires were agglomeration of many conquered territories. Because leaders then conquered different territories and they turned them into their own. Take, for instance, the Roman Empire spanned up to Africa. What is known as Africa was conquered by the Romans by one of their famous generals called Scorpius Africanus in what is called the First and Second Punic Wars, where Hannibal was defeated. So the Roman Empire spanned from Africa, parts of Europe, and it went deep into Asia Minor. And that's what made up the Roman Empire. And it was great in its time. It was great in its time. It held all the trappings of an empire. But at some point, it started to disintegrate. This is a very powerful class. Please call somebody to listen because it will teach you a lot. And they had people that were big players in the Roman Empire. They had Caesar, Augustus. They had intellectuals, public speakers. They had the likes of Cicero. They had Julius Caesar. They've got people. They've got Mark Antony. They had people that thought how a society should pan out. And they had the ethos for their own society. Ooh, I'd really need that, Yemi, if you could avail me that. Okay, but you have to go, yeah. Okay. So they had the ethos. They had the ethos for what the society represented. And truth to be told, they did follow the ethos. The Roman Senate, for instance, was a very egalitarian one that was robust with his own ideas. And the fact of the matter is, most of the way we arrange the Senate of most nations today are pretty much shaped around what the Romans had. So they had debates. They were respected. They had city planning laws. But it was just the fact that it was city planning laws that cut across a lot of areas. It was city planning laws that cut across a lot of areas. They look for ways to solve societal problems. They build roads. As at AD 3 something, the 3rd century thereabout, they built roads. And they span for a lot of years. I kid you not. I still see some roads built by the Romans in England, because hope you know that what is England today was colonized by the Romans. They had a language of communication which was the elitist language. Of Latin. In fact, the Romans built something called the cobblestone roads, where they used stone to build roads and cobbled them together. They were cobble-shaped. And I've still seen some of those roads. They had town planning. Yes, they did have town planning. The egalitarian people in their society also had recreational centers. And their recreational centers were top shape. In fact, for further reference, you can go to a city that I've had the privilege of visiting called Bath. Bath Spa, because there were actually Roman thermal baths in that city. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And you can see a lot of these developments. In providing water for their citizens, guess what they did? They had a system where they transported water. Yes, they did. And they provided water, and they will transport, water from one city or from one water source to the main city. And they built all the structures in there. In fact, there's something called the aqueducts, which they used to build which they built to bring water from outer areas into inner areas. If you still go some parts of Europe, some parts of Portugal today, you still see those water systems built by the Romans still there, aqueducts. But the difference between the Roman Empire was the fact that it was an agglomeration of many conquered territories. After that, we've had empires. We've had Oyo Empire, or the old Oyo Empire, like it's called, that spanned up till Dahomey. And everybody too had systems. We've had the Ottoman Empire. Then we had the dynasties in China, the Ming dynasty, and they had prospects of development. But afterwards, nations started emerging. And on the African continent, we had empires like Songhai, Mali, Mansa Musa headed the empire. Timbuktu was the capital of learning. But the interesting thing is, they started cascading into nations. Because when the colonialists came, it was easy for the colonialists to be able to segment these various empires into nations for easy running of their country. So one of the things they did was to take the African continent, for instance, and cut them into chunks of little nations so that they'll be able to put in their colonial heads there to run it for them. So take, for instance, the vast land owned by the likes of King Makoko that Pier Pedro Paulo de Braza discovered was turned into Congo-Brazzaville, just across the water from Congo. So for them to be able to easily run it, they had Congo-Brazzaville, which it was still part of the old, Kambagita Congo Empire, if there's anything like that, or the Congo area. And they turned it into little chunks of country for them to be able to run. And that's what they did. Even without their country, Nigeria. When they came in here, they met us fighting. And I say that because a lot of people, the mistakes we made that the colonial masters used against us are still the mistakes we are making today. And that's why in teaching about nationhood, we need to learn to do things right as a people. When the colonialists came, we were not united. So they met us fighting. And because we were fighting, it was easy for them to take over. So most parts, for instance, in the Yoruba area, were fighting. We had fought the Kiriji and Jalumi wars when the British came. And you know what that meant for us? Our army was already depleted. And it was so easy for them to take over. And that's why predominantly what the British did was just to make a truce among the warring factions. And once they made a truce with Captain Bauer, it was easy. Because most of our people had even been sold into slavery because of the Kiriji and Jalumi Wars, the 100-year Yoruba Wars they are called. So before you know it, from 1900 to about 1910, 1915, to about 1906, yes, if my memory serves me right, they are taking over most parts of the Southwest. And obviously, you know, it was Lagos they first took over as a crown colony in the late 1800s, 1851, 52. So by 1906, they are taking over most parts of the Southwest, and they are joined them together with Lagos, and they called it the Southern Protectorate of Nigeria. That's what they did. And why could they take over the Southern Protectorate of Nigeria so easily? Was simply because they met people around here fighting. There were massive fault lines. We had the Ijesha Ekiti Parakpo wars against the Ibadan, the garrison place. We had the squabble, with Fabumi and his people. So we're already divided. And because of those divisions, it was easy for them to take those parts, agglomerate them, and form a nation with the Lagos Protectorate for easy running. Anyway, they had converted Lagos into their crown colony as at then. I think the first important lesson you should learn that a nation that is constantly divided against itself will have problems. And that's why Nigerians should unite. Because you see, once you are divided and you can't speak truth to power with one voice, and it's always about your selfish interest, then nothing will happen in your country. It will constantly revolve around its own dilemmas of destruction and chaos. But when a nation has a code of integrity, that whoever is concerned will be shown that code of integrity, then you know to a large extent the nation is a strong nation. Nationhood. Nationhood has to do with identity. And I've just been telling you how the nations evolved. And after the British had conquered most parts of the Southern Protectorate and united them in 1906, then they brought in Lugard. The reason why they brought in Lugard was because he was known for his brutality, to be able to get things done on time. And they had envisaged they were going to get a lot of resistance when they started to conquer parts of the Northern Protectorate. And because of technological advancement, also made it easy for them. A certain American called Halloran Maxim had discovered something called the Maxim gun, which obviously could shoot more bullets per minute. So the conquest became easier. By 1914, they had completed, they're taking most parts of the North. Then they had the amalgamation for them to be able to build an easy country and a nation. But the question is, we cannot keep blaming the British, isn't it, for our problems. It is time for us to collectively speak as one Because the nominal fact is, even if tribe and tongues may differ, but there's a possibility of an agreement and brotherhood that comes through unity and comes through fairness and comes through justice and listening out to one another. But this can only be forged with a collective understanding and by politicians that don't use our differences to divide us as a people, but use it as strength to be able to unite us and make us build better nationhood. Because when you look at it, it also applies all over the African continent. If you check the timeline of use of the word nationhood, it increased in the 1950s, and you know why? Because out of Africa alone, 50 new identities had their own full-fledged independence in the 1950s into the 1960s. Maybe went up to 1970s and 1980s, if you want to say countries like Zimbabwe. I got their independence in the early 80s. That was formerly Rhodesia. Or if you want to talk about probably Mozambique, Samora Machel that got its independence around 1975. Probably Mozambique and Zimbabwe was sort of like the last frontiers, but predominantly most of the other countries got their independence longer. In the 50s, in the 60s, 50s and 60s. Ghana, 2 years up to the 60s, Nigeria afterwards. But for you to be able to build a nation, it must be done in collective love. And when you look at it deeply, love and nation building is not an easy task. But it's a constant task in belief. And trust me, which doesn't come easy. Which comes with a lot of hurts. But you see, the conversation about the hurt is the fact that you know that we're pressing towards a nation. We're pressing towards a nation because we see the possibility and the greatness and the togetherness of good nationhood, or of a good nation. But in that same quest and path to building a nation, you will have setbacks and pitfalls by people that think they are better than other people in the union, or they're smarter. But it doesn't stop you from having the belief in the nation, because you see, people that think they're better than others, it's just for a moment of time. And no matter how long it takes, time will also pass them by. So you cannot give up on a nation because of few individuals. Because there's something bigger about the grace that nation espouses, rather than the interest of a few individuals. I'd like to pause the first part on the series on nationhood here and get comments and calls. I'll talk about this, then I continue part 2. Part 2 will deal with tenets of how to build a nation. This is Nationhood Part 1. This is a very powerful message. And it's going to be on Rufai Speaks podcast. Very powerful message. I just gave you a little introduction. How nations evolved. I hit on some of the tenets of building a nation. And it's a very powerful one. Hello, how are you? Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Great to have you. This is Rufai here. What's your name?
Hello?
I can hear you. What's your name? No, we lost that. 0700 903 903 903. Hello, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? Very well.
Great to have you. Please turn up the volume of your radio. There's something hovering back to me at the back.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, my name is Prince Gabe. I'm calling from US. How you doing?
Very well, Prince. How's it going? Talk to me. You heard this
Yeah,
message.
I'm doing great.
Nationhood. We just set the tone for it, you know. It's a message I'll preach to again another week before election so that people start to get the essence of this. What's your take on it?
Well, the reason why I was calling just see you on TV, I see you always comment a good comment about this on Nigeria politics, which I really appreciate.
Thank you.
I'm from Nigeria, from Edo State.
Thank you.
And what the job you are doing is a nice job, just keep it up. But the point is, we are all Nigerians.
Yeah.
The only pain we feel, we living abroad, I wish we have an opportunity to vote. Because right now, we are trying to make Nigeria great. We cannot stand all these problems. Most of us being abroad today, we leave Nigeria going to abroad because of the situation of Nigeria. You can't even do good business in Nigeria because of this cabal, what they call that cabal. So please, if there's anything Nigeria can do to stop this toxin, especially in Lagos, it's too much. Tinubu, we agree that you are a godfather, but you have to let the peace reign. There is no time for fighting against each other. We are all one blood.
Thank you so much.
So
Really
you journalists, you are doing a great job, and you are your colleagues in Arise TV. Please, I know when you speak the truth in Nigeria, it's a problem. The problem the truth have to be told. And you are the one who is making a good time for we Nigeria. You please, we all respect you, and we can't pray. We pray every day for Peter Obi to go into that power. Person like you, we would like to host you in anywhere abroad because you deserve it.
Okay.
Please,
thank you so much.
To stop this Nigeria violence.
Thank you so much. Let's focus on the subject matter of nationhood. Thank you so much for your calls, your commentations, but because this is a critical matter, because you see, this thing I just explained, a lot of people don't understand it. They don't even understand how nations pretty much evolve. And that's why I took out my time to explain it. You know, and I hope that people get it. I've put it on the podcast. It's called Nationhood. And it's a powerful one. 0700 903 903 903. Olayinka Valahut, I see you. Collins Ebuka, good morning, everyone. Idoma, good morning, everyone. And nationhood. I've been able to tell you how nations evolve, how they started, how we used to have empires before, but now we've got nations. Yes, you can make the argument some of them were cobbled together because of various interests, but truth has to be told that once a nation is built, it behoves on people, on the nation, to be able to make it work. And you cannot say because of the interests of a few couple of people that think, oh, for them they're more important than other people. You cannot say because of their interests, you stop believing in your country. And that's a mistake a lot of people make one too many times. They say, oh, politicians, they're just a select class. The nation is bigger than them. Even if it looks as though they have all the power now, the nation is bigger than the political class. So the question is, how do you keep believing in your nation, despite the shenanigans of a few politicians, that the nation will continue to exist even long after they're gone? And trust me, we have seen eras like that. They will come and they'll go. They will come and they will go. Zero 903 903 903. Hello, how are you? Oh, we lost that call. 0700 903 903 903. 0700 903 903 903. It's a message that a lot of people don't understand now, but hopefully it's going to sink in soon on the essence of a nation. Somebody says national orientation is key to building a cohesive society. Also, we need democratic acculturation. Yes. Yes. But democratic acculturation will be greatly affected by the mindset of a politician that wants to grab it at all cost. And that's why in also building a nation, we must also have strong institutions. The challenge now in Nigeria is the fact that the political class are cannibalizing the institutions. So institutional integrity has become problematic. And those are the things I'm going to address. And when you look at it, in a place where institutional integrity becomes suspect, then structures start to decay. But you see, there's something also called a retune of institutional integrity, which can happen. But it takes a strong political will, number one. Two, it takes doggedness. And seriously, it takes economic vitality of a nation to be able to bring about this theory. Because real quickly, the challenge has always been, since the economic fecundity of Nigeria, for instance, at an all-time low, money can buy you anything. And the challenge is you can't build a society where money can buy anything. And when the political class think that they can buy any part of the institution, it becomes problematic. So this message on nationhood, we want to identify the problems to now start to put us on the path of renewal. And once we can salvage our institutions, we're well on our way to salvaging the nation. Once we can salvage our institutions, we're well on where to salvaging the nation. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
God bless you.
Bless you, sir. My name is Hosea Jacob.
Yes, OC. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Shasha.
Yeah.
I've been listening to your conversation or dialogue or whatever you want to call it on nationhood.
Yes.
And my own little idea on nationhood is nationhood entails so many things.
Yes.
And to me, I look at it as, first of all, one has to be patriotic before you talk about anything nationhood. patriotism, civic responsibility, and we cannot talk about nationhood if we put our tribes and religion ahead of our country. One of the problems we are facing today is a result of we looking at ourselves, our own interest above the nation interest. Yes, sir. We have to love this country before we can think of what we can do for this country. We have to sacrifice for us to get to where we want to be. People that run helter skelter going, they send their children to America, send their children to UK. If those people did not sacrifice to build their nation, where will they send their children to? Where? But when election is around the corner, the next thing we think about is my tribe, my religion is from this part of the country. We should go above that. We should be thinking of who has the interest of the country first. Who can do it? That is my thinking. I am from the north, but I stay in Lagos there, right? And I'm not looking at things from that perspective of coming from the north. I'm just looking at who can do it. What will be my contribution to Nigeria? If I am not around tomorrow, what will they remember me for? That is my thinking. And that is what I want every one of us to be thinking about. Let's keep that sentiment of tribalism, religion, ethnicity aside. Let's, for the first time, think about Nigeria. Let's look at the country and see, are we on the right path? What have we done wrong in the past? What can we do now? What are the prospects for this country, sir? The youth that we talk about, they are the same. I am a youth. I'm 34 years. They are the same problem of the same country because in the next 2 weeks, we're going to election. It is the same youth they will use. The same youth, they use stories that they will use to carry ballot boxes, to kill fellow citizens. Why? Nigeria is a great nation. And Nigeria, it should not be on paper. Let people see the greatness in us. We have great minds. Wherever we go, we excel. But we cannot just do away with crime in our life. Can we just, for the first time, and say, let's do things right for the sake of this nation and for the sake of the unborn children? Things are not just okay. Nothing is working. I wanted to go to church. I couldn't go to church this morning because I don't have transport. Not that I don't have money, but I don't have cash. I can't go. I have to stay back at home. So what can we do? Even though the policy that the government is introducing has the best of interest, at the end of the day, it's politicized. What are we going to do?
And that's why on the path to a nation, sometimes it wouldn't get easy, but you have to at least constantly believe that it's going to get better and speak towards it and do your own path. Then you see things start to get better. So anybody that says a nation building is easy, then doesn't know what nation building is all about.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of Nigerians go to Canada today, but I keep telling them that this same Canada that you see today was a fighting field in the 70s until we had Pierre Elliott Trudeau. The Quebecois wanted to leave Canada. There were talks about secession. There's something called the Front de la Libération de Québec. They wanted to leave Canada until leadership cobbled the country together.
Wow.
So in building a nation, it is the capacity of leadership that matters a great deal, but also building those strong society. And how can you do it? One, with the institutions. The problem with Nigeria now is that the institution has been cannibalized. Our institution has been cannibalized by the political class.
Oh, yeah.
And when they hold that to themselves, they can, you talk about an Naira policy. Not that the policy is not good, not that the CBN has not put out money in circulation. Do you know what is happening?
No, sir.
The banks can be easily corrupted.
Yeah.
So because of the shenanigans going on with the banks, handing money over to the politicians at the expense of the suffering people, then the hardship continues. So, but once we start to get that right, and the first way you can work on the institution is political will.
Yep.
So once you do that, then you start to put a nation on the path of development. And it will happen.
It will happen. Yeah.
It will happen. We keep speaking, and that's why we've been calling, beaming the searchlights on the judiciary, for instance, as we go to elections. We keep beaming the searchlights on them because we are not oblivious of the fact that some parts of the judiciary have been cannibalized by the political class.
Yeah.
With money. But we'll keep speaking out because the British cobbling Nigeria together, the southern and the northern protectorate, was not our problem. It is because we've not been able to work on our national collective unity, and it's because the division favored a group of politicians at the time at which they did it.
This U.S. election in 2020, I followed that election keenly. And what I learned from that election was the fact that institutions are stronger than individuals.
Oh, yes.
That's number one. And again, the love for the country should supersede any human interest.
Oh, yes.
Why do I say that? Number one, all the Supreme Court in America refused to dance to the tune of the president. Then.
Oh, yes.
Talking about Donald Trump. The second thing is some political appointees who look at the interests of America over the interests of their master or whoever it is. Talking about Donald Trump now. I remember the Attorney General of the Federation, William Barr, and the like. They refused to compromise.
Yes.
His own vice president too. Right? Mike Pence, he also refused to because he look at America. America became great because of what? Sacrifices, because of love for the nation, because they are not looking at their own interest alone. They are thinking about their children. They are thinking about the sacrifice, the likes of Abraham Lincoln, the likes of, what do you call it, the great leader, John F. Kennedy and co. They paid for America to get to where it is today. So, today in Nigeria, you can't even look at how many of them have integrity. How many of them would say something today and they will stand tomorrow and say, yes, I stand by my word. Yes, this is what I said yesterday, and I'm not going back on my word.
Thank you so much. We'll keep preaching it out there. We'll build a stronger and a better nation. Thank you so much. So I've got somebody with me here, and you can still call me up 0700 903 903 903. That feel he wants to lead that, sense of nationhood through a state, and he's Shegun. Somebody's here. Shegun Wana is saying it's indigenous of it to equate Nigeria to a nation. Nigeria is not a lie. Nigeria can never be a nation. Nigeria is a nation. Evidently, we're using a foreign language for this morning. It doesn't mean so. It's a lingua franca. It doesn't mean so. So people should drop this pesky ideas generated out of frustration. Because if you're frustrated and you think nothing will happen in your lifetime, nothing will happen. You just frustrate yourself and you die in frustration. But if you look forward and keep fighting for the things you believe in, then things can get better. So Nigeria is a nation. Nigeria is a nation. Albeit coupled together by the British, yes. There are different circumstances at which the start of a nation happen. But it's still a nation. Are you going to say because a child was conceived out of wedlock, the child doesn't have a rightful heir to his father's inheritance? You can't say that. So you have qualms with the circumstances, the British and all of that. Nations evolve like that. But when nations start to get their acts right, they grow. Look at India today. Wasn't India colonized by the British Raj? Didn't India try to find its feet for so many years? But now India is doing 6.5%. India is set to be one of the fastest growing economy in the world this year. In the next 4 or 5 years, the Indian economy will beat the British economy. That's a nation rising. So there's nobody living in denial. I'll take this call before I have my guest on this morning. Hello, how are you?
Good morning.
Great to have you.
Yeah, this is Tayo calling from Oba.
Tayo from Oga, great to have you.
I think I've heard your voice before on another station.
Yes.
Yeah, 99.3, am I correct?
What?
I said on
Yes.
something called
99.3.
Okay,
Yes,
now I know
it.
who I'm speaking with.
Yes.
Okay. I'm a first-time caller on this
Bless
platform.
you. Bless you so much.
It's your voice. I was scanning through my radio. I thought, I think I know this voice.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I listened to what you said.
Thank you.
How do we salvage our institutions? America is great. Why is America great? America is great because America refused to continue with colonial master setup judiciary. Yes. Government of the people, by the people, for the people started in the United States when they said, no, we're not going to continue with this British setup judiciary, where too much power is given to the police. Too much power. In Nigeria today, the responsibility on Nigerian police today is being handled by 5 institutions in the United States. That is a mistake Balewa government and Nnamdi Azikiwe government made in 1960. We can't continue with colonial master autocratic set of justice sector. Okay? How can you ask one institution to accuse either wrongly or rightly? Then the same institution will arrest. The same institution will detain you in their custody. The same institution is the one that is going to give you bail. The same institution is the one that's going to prosecute you. That is too much power. And too much power corrupts absolutely.
You know,
in America, we elect judges.
Yeah.
Yes, we elect judges, we elect our prosecutors, we elect our sheriffs. The sheriffs are the one that carries out court order. That is why you have in Nigeria today, the government don't enforce court order. And I ask them, do you have any institution that enforces court order? You don't have it. You don't have it. The sheriff, once the court gives order, before you even get to your house, the sheriff already carried it out. That is their job. Why do we have so much human rights abuses? Because once, whether it's the Dallas police or FBI, once you arrest, you hand over to the sheriff. The person accusing you that arrested you cannot keep your custody. Yes, therefore they cannot put your head inside water and say, yes, say you do, hey, I did it. No.
Yeah.
Because and these institutions are elected by the people. That is why they are strong. Sheriff he doesn't care about the governor in America because he doesn't derive his power from there. Okay? But here, everything is appointed by the executive.
I get your point.
Executive, the legislative, they have subjugated the judiciary.
I get your point.
The judiciary is an orphan. So when, because the executive will appoint, legislative will approve. That is why both of them are padding our budget, and the judiciary that's supposed to declare it unconstitutional, they can't talk.
I get your point. So let me interact with you. Can I interact with you a bit? So,
okay.
You know, I get your point about these concerns. I get your point about institutions. I have those qualms too, you know. I feel that the Constitution is not fit for purpose any longer. There has to be strong constitutional reforms. I feel the conversations that we had in 2014 at National Confab should be brought back to the front burner. So, I got a chance to speak to former president of the country, Abdulsalami Abubakar. And I attacked him, with all the questions you've attacked me with today and all of this you said. And attack doesn't mean attack. I just mean, conversational attack. And I'll never forget what he told me. He said, yes, you say we are wrong and you don't like the Constitution that we gave you, that we cobbled together, which was the 1979 Constitution, which was just amended in 1999. Said yes. Said, then why have you people not changed it? And I think that should be the big challenge for us. Then if we don't like it, it's time to change it. We don't want powers to be vested in the hands of executive too much, because the Constitution is sort of military-esque, where the Nigerian president is an absolute monarch. Then why can't we change it? We have the chance again to vote for lawmakers that can change it. Have we ever told them that it is based on what they do for us as regards constitutional change that we'll vote for them? And why am I preaching this topic today? Because I feel very sad. But I still believe 2023 will make it 100 years we've been holding elections in Nigeria. The first elections were held in 1923, albeit overseen by the richest constitution that was British. The first time we had an independent constitution was the elections we held, the federal elections in 1959. But cumulatively, we've had 12 election cycles, over 100 years, with a lot of military interregnum. But we can also change this, we the people. But it starts with even the conversations we have. So I get your point, sir. Are you still there?
I'm still here. I'm listening because when you mention the 1979 Constitution, I want you to finish. I'm going to make a comment on that.
Yes. So it starts with the kind of country we've built for ourselves. And let me tell you, let me also add one argument to it. I read the dissenting argument of the 1979 Constitution recently. And I think in going forward, I think those are some arguments we should also put on the front burner. But thank you so much, and I rest my case. I know you want to say lots.
I want to talk about it. 1979 was a missed opportunity. When Murtala Muhammad assembled this constitutional drafting committee under the chairmanship of Rotimi Williams. Rotimi Williams is a British trained lawyer. He knows nothing about American system. He knows nothing. And when he went and brought American presidential, executive arm, legislative arm, and mixed it with colonial master set of judiciary, that is where we have that problem. Because as at that time, Rotimi Williams ought to have returned the judiciary back to the people. But they kept it. And from 1979, we jumped into 1999. And you mentioned about this confab under Obasanjo, under Jonathan. I'm a system engineer. The Germans, the Americans, they train me. We put up system that runs a whole country, a whole Google, a whole whatever. I started my training in the then West Germany in the early 70s when NCR was putting together the system that's going to run South Africa, the apartheid government. That was where I started my training. The only company I ever worked for in Nigeria was Daily Times of Nigeria Limited, when Chief Aremo Olusegun Oshoba was the deputy editor of my Oga, Olabo Gunsowo, all of my Ebola as the editor. But I left in the early 70s, arrived in then West Germany. From there, I entered United States. It was an American company that recruited us when we graduated in Germany, that recruited me. People even from UK countries came all over, but I chose to go with the American company.
So as we wrap up, I get about your profile. I mean, I get to, as we wrap up.
Yeah.
Another conversation I'd like to take you to is I think it is also not nice when we think the America system will work in Nigeria. It's time for Nigeria to develop its own inherent system based on what will work for it and based on what will bring about accountability.
Whatever system we are going to develop, we have to have a system engineer because the conflict they did under Obasanjo and Jonathan is so waste of time. If you don't have the experts in there to direct them, to tell them that, look, there's something we have to put on the table for them. Because I was laughing when one of their committees, they are going to judiciary to find out. You don't go to judiciary, the Chief Justice, to ask them what is their problem. No. Because why is it that we don't obey traffic laws today? Because we don't put a system in place that will revoke your driver's license if you misuse the road. How many Nigerians knows that driving is a privilege? The moment I entered Germany in 1973, I knew that driving is a privilege, not a right in the Constitution. And whether in Germany, in America, there is a procedure in place where they revoke your driver's license. You have it here. Unless the system engineers, we have to tell them, I don't care, you can sit down on a round table for 100 years. You will never get
it. I beg to differ about that because when you look at it, driving laws differ everywhere. At first, it even starts with even understanding of the process at which drivers even emerge in the first place. You know, what process do they go through? Who tutors them? Who certificates them before they can get on the road? And all of that. So a lot has to be said. But thank you for your input this morning. I appreciate you. But we need to develop our own collective system that works for us. And when you look at it, it starts with things like confab. I also beg to differ that those two confab were a waste of time. I have read the over 600-page report of the confabs, and you have some good detail in there. Trust me, it's not a waste of time. Some good work was done. I think we should take our time to read it too, dispassionately. And it is well in our country. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I've got somebody here that wants to engineer those systems in Lagos. He's the governorship candidate of the ADC, Mr. Funsho Doherty. Great to have you. I mean, you heard the conversation as you were coming in. And we are talking about systems engineering, Lagos, and all of that. I mean, let's start with what is even your grand concept for Lagos? How do you see this city? How do you see this state? One of the smallest states, but yet filled with a lot of potential. Has so much capacity. One of the smallest yet the richest states in the country. How do you see this? And you can join us up on this conversation 0700 903 9039. Please, my operator at the back, put on the number for those on YouTube. They want to call up. Please, put the number there. I can't put it here myself. And if you want to call us up and ask Mr. Funsho Doherty questions, he wants to be the next governor of Lagos, governorship candidate of the ADC. He's right here with us. How do you see this state, sir?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rufai.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Great.
To be here
today.
An interesting conversation I caught the tail end of. So the way we think about Lagos is that here is a city that is blessed with many natural advantages, whether they're geographic, whether it's in terms of the population, whether it's in terms of our history as a commercial city for centuries, really. But here is also a city that is operating far below its potential. This is a city that this year will have a budget of 1.7 trillion, which is the budget of several states combined. And, adjusted
Say that again.
I said adjusted for inflation,
Mm.
we probably have been spending similar sums over.
And that culminates into how much in, I thought you said the dollar terms recently.
No, well, I don't have that number. I'm just saying that when you adjust it for inflation, surely you would not spend 1.7 trillion every year.
Definitely,
Obviously,
definitely.
inflation has been around
Yeah.
that period. So, now, when you think about where we are in relation to where we could be, given those resources and given those natural advantages, I think that the conclusion that you have to draw is that this is a state that's been undermanaged, and we think that so much more could be done. So our grand vision of Lagos, which is really the outcome that we expect of the Tiger agenda that we have for Lagos, is twofold. One is to deliver quality of life, dignity, and respect to the average Lagosian. And the other is to lay a foundation for a Lagos in the first world, which it is our hope we will accomplish in the next generation. You will notice that in that grand vision, it's not talking about the roads that we build or a bridge that we're going to build. It's talking about outcomes in terms of quality of life of the citizens, which ultimately is the product of governance. That's what governance is aimed at. And I think that this is our focus. This is what we have our targets set on. Lagos, as you know, has consistently been ranked towards the bottom of the quality of life rankings, notwithstanding the tremendous sums that have been spent and that continue to be spent each year. So our view is that with our Tiger agenda, which I can talk more about, we will place Lagos on the path to the first world and deliver substantially improved quality of life to Lagosians.
So let's expound on this Tiger agenda. But the grand vision, like you said, is doing something for the next generation, because, and I like the honesty and the practicality, it's almost inachievable in 8 years.
It is,
but
yes.
it's pretty much laying that foundation.
Absolutely. And recording some wins, but laying the foundation for the future, yeah.
For the future. So let's go one step further by talking about this Tiger agenda.
Yeah.
Then we start to break it down, because you see, we've also built a society where people don't see the intangibles.
Yes.
It is the tangibles they see. That's why building a flyover where it's not needed is applauded. So let's lay it down.
Yeah.
What will be the quick wins, the tangibles, this Tiger agenda?
Okay, so the Tiger agenda, let me just quickly run through it. The Tiger is an acronym, and the T stands for tax reform, for equity, prosperity, and growth. The I stands for infrastructure to support a modern mega city. G stands for government reform. E stands for education and health systems that the people trust. And R stands for rule of law and public order. And these are broad themes, as you can see. And there are specific policy measures under each of these themes. But the idea is that if we implement this and implement it consistently, one of the early things that you will start to see is that the actions of government will begin to come into alignment with the interests of the people. What do I mean? If you take the G in government reform, we're saying that there are a number of things that you must do to get our government working the way a government should, which is that the people who are occupying positions of authority, people who are sitting in government offices and on those seats, are taking decisions that are not driven by their self-interests, but driven more in terms of what are the needs of the people, and therefore what projects should be undertaken based on those needs, and how should they be undertaken, who should do them, how do we ensure accountability, how do we monitor and ensure people are doing what they ought to do. And this relates to many of the things which you spoke about just before I came in. And we're saying to do that, you have to do a number of things. One is to, as an initial step, you have to improve the compensation of government workers, the public sector workers, the civil servants. Because you can't operate in a system with insincerity. You can't operate where there's no justice and expect peace and progress. So we want to insist that those who are making decisions on behalf of the people are making the right decisions with integrity, and they're making decisions that reflect the public trust that their offices represent. And the first step towards that is to ensure that they're reasonably compensated. I think it's only fair and it is only practical, because that's the only way you get to that outcome. I mean, you can continue beating them over the head and say you must act with integrity and act with integrity. But if you don't pay them a living wage, and you know and they know, and you look into one another's eyes and you both know that you're not paying them a living wage, that is not a sustainable thing. So we'll do that. But then we'll also insist that people act with integrity. We will do things like strengthen the Attorney General's office, strengthen the tools of enforcement, surveillance, audit, ensure that people do the right thing. We will hold people to standards. And by the way, Rufai, you know, none of these things that we're talking about involves passing new laws. The laws are all in the books. Even the rules of the public service cover these things. So it's really about setting the right tone from the top, all the way from the governor's seat all the way down, leading by example, and then holding people to those standards, and then enforcing and taking actions when they don't. So it's both the carrot and the stick. And you do it diligently, and you start to prosecute people. And you will see that once you do this, behavior starts to change, and then culture subsequently starts to change. And then we begin to see the actions. There's a whole range of, things I can talk about, but perhaps...
Let's talk about taxes and revenue, because you need money to be able to implement all of this.
Yeah.
What is faulty with the tax system as we speak currently in Lagos? 0700 903 903 903. I would like to get a lot of questions, from Lagosians. As Funsho Doherty here wants to be your governor, our governor in this Lagos. So you've got all the questions for him. Let us talk about them. What is faulty with the revenue system and the tax system as we speak now in Lagos? What can you do to increase rev?
So, good question. There are a number of things that are wrong with the tax system. First of all, it's not an equitable system. What do I mean? Ordinarily, you would expect that in a tax system, those that earn the most should pay the most, and those that earn the least should pay the least. And indeed, those that are at the most vulnerable might even get benefits rather than being taxed, which is, social security in a developed society. Now, we almost have the reverse situation here. And why is that? Because when you think about taxes, it's not just the formal taxes that the LIRS charges, but you also have informal taxes, levies, monies that are levied and taken from the day-to-day people. So the market women, the commercial bus drivers, these are monies that they're levied on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you think about these levies...
Sorry to cut you in.
Sure.
Because calls come in every time. Hello, how are you?
Hello, good morning, Rufai. How are you?
Very well, thank you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Juliet. I'm calling from Lekki.
All right, Juliet from Lekki. Great to have you. So, your question, please.
Okay. Well, both a question and a comment.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Dorothy.
Good morning, Juliet. How are you?
I wanted to ask your guest,
Yes.
is he willing to work with the Labour Party so that they can create a better consensus in changing Lagos? And I think that most of the elite class should recognize that all over the world, it took a group of elite class to go beyond themselves to deliver a society. So I don't know if he's willing to do that, because nation building really is a sacrifice of a people who have capacity to deliver others. We saw it in South Korea. It took the elite class to rescue the nation. The poor and the needy can't do that. So sometimes when I see so many political parties, I ask myself questions that, would it not be better if they're working together, if we need to deal with removing the old to put the new with a better system for everyone?
Okay.
Thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you so much, Julie, for that. We'll also get more questions. 0700 903 903 903. So get done on the tax thing first, then answer this. Are you going to be doing a collaboration with Labour? Would you, last minute, because a lot of people make that argument. I'll give you an instance. It's even happened in a state close to us. The last elections in Oyo State, I think a week before the elections, people collapsed the structure for Sheyi Makinde. That's the argument they make. I think I think Lanlai, I think Chief Bolaji Ayanride that I know of.
Yes.
He was governorship candidate on the SDP Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and a couple of other people.
Yes.
They collapsed the structure for one person for Sheyi Makinde. So I'm sure probably that's what she's talking about,
Alluding to.
So that's one, but also the tax system you were talking
Let me
about.
just wrap up on the tax and then I'll come back to address that question. So I talked about the inequity that's in the tax system. So if you look at these taxes and levies, informal and informal, that the vulnerable pay, the market women, the commercial bus drivers, and we've been in the markets talking to the women, you'll find that their effective tax rate when you add all those things together is probably higher than even the high income earners, right? Because the proportion of those taxes in relation to their income is very high. That's one. Secondly, we think that a lot more could be done to support what is needed in Lagos to make it a productive society, which is to support small businesses to start up, get up to speed, employ 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Government needs, at that stage of those businesses, to be very supportive and not burden them with taxes and regulation in a way that stifles that growth, because we need to incubate those businesses and support them. Government cannot employ all those people, and we need to be supportive. And to the extent that they employ 2, 3, 4 people, they are solving a problem for government, and there's value associated with that. And we should, as a government, actually be prepared to pay for that, whether it's by reduced taxes or whatever means. We also need to be able to support the types of businesses that we need, not just small businesses, larger businesses also that can employ substantial numbers of people, and give them the tax incentives that allow them to view this place as an attractive destination. Obviously, there are other things like infrastructure, etc., that will come into that calculus, but taxes are important. The final thing I would say about taxes is the administration of the taxes itself. In other words, the operation of the tax collection machinery. We have a system in Lagos that uses the famous or infamous alpha beta.
Why do we even have that in the first place? Why can't the LIRs just administer its taxes?
So we have said, and I've said it publicly, it's part of our Tiger agenda, we will unwind that arrangement, because we do not believe that it is required.
But it's been codified in the law, so that means
No, I mean, it's a contract which the executive has signed. There's no reason why that cannot be unwound. And by the way, if you can prove that something is an unconscionable, there's something called unconscionable contracts in law, right? Where the basis for it is fundamentally either unfair or not reasonable, and you can take it away. Look, I have run 3 companies as managing director and CEO. All 3 of those companies, 2 are national companies, by the way. All of those companies were headquartered in Lagos. I have received numerous letters, as every CEO has, from the tax authorities. Neither myself nor any CEO I know has received a letter from Alpha Beta. All the letters come from Lagos Internal Revenue Service. If they're going to audit you, it's LIRS. If they're going to do assessment, it's LIRS. So most of the work is actually being done by LIRS. And Alpha Beta is essentially performing a record-keeping activity at best, perhaps incorporating technology. And there's no reason why it should be entitled to a share of the state's revenue, which is my money and your money, in perpetuity. We think that this is unconscionable, and we will unwind it. And by the way, Alpha Beta is a private company owned by a few individuals with lack of transparency. There's no reason why that should be. We'll unwind it. So that's the last thing I'll talk about on the tax side. Now,
the partnerships Julia talked about.
to the question about Labour and potential partnership with Labour and other parties, look, we are open to working with and discussing with all those who have common views about the progress of Lagos. Now, that's a general statement. Obviously, in these types of discussions, the devil is in the details. So often, people come to the table with different expectations, different views, different motivations, and everybody came into this journey with their own sense of conviction as to what they were setting out to do. And so that's a process that needs to be worked through for any collaboration to happen. And it's not the case that discussions have not been going on. But I think that ultimately, time will tell whether any such collaboration happens, and if so, what type of collaboration happens. But what I would advise the electorate is to operate with what you see today, which is to do what is expected of you as a voter and as a member of the electorate, which is to assess the candidates who are presenting themselves before you, seeking your mandate as governor or seeking your mandate as president. 2023 is very important to think about the candidates themselves and not so much about the parties, and to assess who do you believe will best serve as your president and who do you believe will best serve as your governor.
Okay.
And make your own individual decision to vote on that basis.
Okay. Another thing that I'd like to talk to you about is violence and security in Lagos. Only yesterday at a Labour Party rally, people were beaten. A lot of people pointed fingers as area boys like Agbero and all of that. What are you going to do about this system of violence, that Agbero have held sway, replica of the Tontoma coup in Haiti, and they get away with this dastardly act.
Yeah.
And it looks as though nobody says, because since the day Agbero have been operating in Lagos and destroying lives and property, I never hear them being brought to book or their ringleader being brought to book. So what differently would you do as regards all of that? 0700 903 903 903.
Yeah, thank you. This is a very important point. So security, as you know, has many different dimensions. There's the long-run dimension, which is that, security and prosperity.
And you condemned the attacks on the supporters yesterday of the Labour Party?
Well, I condemn the attacks on any supporters and any form of violence associated with the political process, and I've done this publicly at various times in the past, and say there's no place for that activity in our political climb. We have said this, and in our ongoing campaign activities, we have seen attempts to sort of stifle and so on, and we just push through those things.
Have you been attacked?
There's no place in our society for that. We have not been attacked.
Okay.
People have tried to prevent access to the people, and we have insisted that we will not have it. So with respect to the security question, I think obviously there are two dimensions. One is the long-run dimension, which is that security and prosperity of the society are somewhat linked, right? So if you manage society in such a way that inequality is increasing, resources are concentrated in a few hands, most people are getting impoverished, it's going to go hand in hand with improved insecurity or with increased insecurity. And that needs to be addressed. So the way we manage the state, and this is the long-run argument we're making for putting the state on a new path, is what will get you to improved security. Now, with respect to the more immediate Agbero problem, and this is interesting because everywhere we go in the state, we hear this complaint. It is probably one of the most, or maybe the top one or two complaints that you get from the average Lagosian across the state. And initially, I didn't think perhaps that it would rank so high. But really, when you think about the common man, these activities are not just a nuisance as they might be to the more well-off in the society. They are actually quite existential. for those folks. So if you think about a market woman, a commercial bus driver, these activities, and if you think about the passengers in those buses, for example, these activities hit their pocketbook directly, right? They bear those costs, and their cost of living, which, as you can imagine, transportation cost in Lagos, is a large part of the cost for many people. So it is not it's a big issue. We think that part of the problem and the reason why this problem has not so far been addressed is because there is not the political will to address it. What do we mean by this? You see, this structure, call it the Agbero structure, is part of the political structure of the existing ruling party in Lagos State. A lot of these people who make up this structure are their political supporters and are used in the process of getting them into power. And we're in election season now, and we see it. And so some of the violence that you talked about yesterday, is violence that is targeted at parties other than the ruling party, right? So, so in a way, you have to understand that the first step to fixing a problem like this is to have the political will. And it is unlikely that you will find that political will in the existing ruling party just because they're a part of the power structure. Now, once you get beyond that, if you come in and you say, well, this is an issue and we want to resolve it, in other words, you have the political will, and we're not beholden to these folks because they are not the ones that elected us. We were elected by a popular mandate of the people, these same people who are victims of this Agbero situation. So our mandate and our responsibility is to the broader society. And so we're going to act in the interest of the broader society, recognizing that there are issues to be managed in the...
Okay, sorry. Let me bring this person in. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, Mr. Rufai, this is Tayo calling from Oba.
Good morning, Tayo from Oba. Yeah.
Okay, I said it earlier. The policing system has been compromised.
Okay, you want to ask...
Bring the commissioner of police here.
Yes.
Because this Agbero, whatever you are, because the policing system is corrupt. They are not productive. They are not productive. Because this attack you are talking is not limited to Lagos. It's happening in River State. Peter Obi was attacked somewhere in Katsina or wherever. Atiku was chased out of Maduguri. It's not limited to Lagos, but because of the population and the small size of Lagos. So it is the policing system that has failed, that has been compromised. When Ojuelegba police station was burned down by the soldiers from Abati barracks under Obasanjo, what happened? The SUV worth 20-something million got burned down in that Ojuelegba police barrack something. In the newspaper everywhere, what happened? Agbero Ojuelegba body for area commander. So if you go to that place, you have problem with this Agbero, and you go to that barrack something, what are you going to get? Let's face it, the police, the commissioner, they are not doing their job. That is it. All this political will. The governors, they have no power over the commissioner of police. They take the order from Abuja. So bring the police. If the police is doing their job and the prosecution is not with them, it's with somebody who elected, they will be prosecuted. They will be in jail planting potato and whatever for the general population.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
But you see, they talk that the governors are not in charge of the commissioner of police. Is it really true? Because I've expanded on that conversation, and I see that it's not really true. It's only when there's at variance with Abuja and the governor, but predominantly the state of things. The political class still holds strong as regards the commissioner of police, and it's still at the beck and call of the governor as the chief security officer.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but in a sense, also there's it's almost like there's a matrix reporting structure, right? So they have their own internal police reporting structure, and as you've said, it is when there are.
Let's take more calls, please. Hello, how are you?
But I wanted to respond to something that gentleman said.
Okay, just hold on. Hello, how are you? Hello. Oh, we lost that. Okay. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good morning.
Please, your question quickly, because so that we allow him to respond to what the last person said.
Oh, okay. I wanted to comment on what the last caller said.
What's your name?
My name is Michael. I'm calling from First Act. I partly agree that the police are compromised, but if the issue of Arboro, if the ruling party in Lagos want to solve the issue of Arboro, they can be decisive. It's just because the Arboro are part of the government. So Lagos is a peculiar issue, and allowing them to be their revenue collection agent, that's where the cross of the matter lies. So it's not as if the governor cannot do anything. They can, like the life caller said, it's not peculiar to Lagos. In other states where the Arboro were making life unbearable for people, the governor there has some of the governors have started tackling the issue. Like the case of Anambra State that Governor Soludo tried to clear them off the road. So it can be done if the governor wants to do it the way, by making sure that there's law and order.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. All right. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Good morning, Mr. Rufai.
Morning.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Good morning, Mr. Rufai.
Your network has been terrible. We've got Mr. Fusha Doherty, governorship candidate, ADC Lagos here. Speak to him.
Thank you. Good morning, Rufai. Thank you. My name is Machiavelli. I'm calling from the United Kingdom.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you. I understand what the man in the interview is talking about. I really concur with him because we have a system that is already wrong from the foundation. Nigerian system gave us what we call a shambolic democracy that has never even understand what they call the rule of law. When the rule of law is missing in the political system, it is called anarchy. We are being ruled by oligarchs who think that it is a government of the elite, by the elite and for the elite. In our constitution, it states that we should have the right to freedom of association and freedom to express ourselves. These were people yesterday that were being attacked, trying to observe their fundamental human rights in a given democratic system. Yet nobody has been arrested for such an attack. And this is the people, the same parties who signed an accord not even long ago. We as citizens, concerned citizens that are living abroad, we don't even know what to do. We are concerned of the situation in Nigeria. But I tell them one thing, that this elite believe that it's going to be only for themselves. But they should know that when injustice becomes a law, resistance becomes a duty. We as Nigerians, we must take back our country and we must deliver the dividends of democracy to the citizens, because the citizens are the employee. These oligarchs are the employers. They are the employees. Sorry, we are the employers. So they must give us the result of what we send them to do, and they should be accountable for it. They don't understand anything. They don't want to see the law in a land that everybody is subject under the law. Even the police themselves don't even understand what the rule of law is. These are people who are supposed to maintain law and order, and they don't even know what they are doing there. It shows that our system has been wrong from the foundation. And right now, Nigerians should know that it's not business as usual. This election is going to determine whether we are going to stick together. Because I believe as a Nigerian, I should be entitled for my right. I should be entitled for my own opinion. If I want to support MP, I should support them. I should not be victimized or being persecuted for observing my fundamental human right. That is what I want to say. Thank you so much for having me today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So please react to all of this. they have a couple of questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There are maybe 3 questions. So I'll take the last. If I take it in reverse order, if you don't mind. So I think, I agree with a lot of what the last caller said. And I think that I will just summarize what I take out of what you've said as follows. This is the time to move beyond rhetoric into action in what you've just said. There is no better time to express that sentiment than to go to the polls and to speak with your voice in the polls in the next 2 to 4 weeks, the presidential, the governorship elections, the legislative elections. That is the golden opportunity that you have to make this change. And the truth is that there's been no better time to do this. We have an electoral landscape that is better than it has ever been. Nobody is saying it is perfect, but it is better than it has ever been. The propensity of your votes to count in this election are far greater than they've been in prior elections. The likelihood that the will of the voters, if clearly expressed, will come through, I think has never been better. So now is the time. We can't blame leaders, we can't blame lawmakers, we can't blame anybody. Right now, the ball is in our court. In the next 2 weeks, we'll be voting for president. 2 weeks thereafter, we'll be voting for governors and state legislators. This is the time. I can't say it with more emphasis than that. So thank you for that comment. Now, the previous caller spoke about the idea that, I think he was essentially concurring with what I was saying, which is that if you have political will,
you'll be able to get all
this thing can be done. This agri problem can be dealt with. Yes, there are potentially collateral things you have to deal with in terms of how do you engage these folks who may no longer be engaged in that activity. But there are ways to do that.
How do you do that? How are you going to do that?
So, look, if you look at this...
how do you do that? Let me rephrase that. How do you do that? Providing the level of wealth they've been exposed to.
Okay, so that's a good. So that's a good question. So let's
balancing it out.
Because
that's one part we don't look at.
Yeah, so it's important.
Like they say in local, but anyone is fair.
Anyone is fair, but could fair too. But what does that mean? Look, if you look at those organizations, they are pyramidal organizations, and you see a similar structure when you look actually at organized crime structures, whether they are mafia structures, whether they are drug dealing structures. What you have is a pyramid with a lot of foot soldiers at the bottom and a few people at the top, and a flow of resources from the bottom to the top, right? Now, in these systems, most of the resources that are generated by that system end up at the top. So even though you have a lot of foot soldiers, it's actually a small part of those resources that are shared by those foot soldiers. Do you see what I mean? But the reason that, nobody grew up and said, I want to grow up to become an agbero. You see what I mean? But they are in it because it provides that daily stipend that they're living upon.
But you see, you know why I'm asking you this?
Yes.
I had to go myself. I put a covert recording and I went through various parks in Lagos and I went to see the monetary structure. And I'll give you my feedback. The person that holds a garage around Aja takes between 50 to 100,000 naira on a daily basis home. Those that trickle down averagely takes between 20,000 to 50,000 home. It is a very robust financial structure that the financial cascade down is actually a lot, even more than what your minimum wage provides. So it's a very established system of this rent collection.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, what jobs can we provide that's going to take their mind off this after that exposure to the level? Is actually wealth. As in, I had to do a detailed groundwork.
Yeah, so I think that, when you talk about the lowest rung of that ladder, which is where you have the most people, it's not those kind of numbers. At the lowest rung, that is the guys who are chasing the commercial bus drivers. You see what I mean? Yes, the guy who is coordinating the garage. But those are, that's where you are starting to accumulate.
That's 100,000 naira per day times 30 days.
For the guy who's in charge of the garage, right? So the guy who's in charge of the garage, how many garages are there? And how many people are there in charge of the garage? In comparison to how many guys are on the street chasing buses. I'm talking about the guys on the street that you see on the expressway chasing buses to collect money. Those are the foot soldiers. And you'll be amazed how small is the money that those guys are taking in order to be able to deliver 100,000 to the man in the garage. You see what I'm saying? So what we have to be most concerned with is that bottom of the rung. That bottom of the rung. And in dismantling this system, you're going to do it in pieces. So you start off by saying, and there are different aspects of it. So one of the aspects of it is the fact that they're even operating on the roads, chasing buses, collecting, and creating hazards on the road. So you can actually stop them from collecting taxes and levies on the roads, on the highways. You can do that right away, right? Then the question of how do you engage these foot soldiers then becomes the next step of the problem, right? And by the way, if this costs government some money, right, in terms of replacement for income, for periodic replacement income for the very bottom of the rung, right, it's something that we should consider for the greater good. And you'll be surprised at the amount of money that we're talking about. At that bottom of the rung is not a tremendous amount of money. Where the tremendous amount of money is the money that flows upwards. And that is the part of the pyramid that we can do away with. We cannot argue that there's any social purpose served by that upper part of the pyramid. We can do away with it. So we dismantle the structure. And it's been done in other places. And it's been done with other criminal organizations, and we can do it. To the gentleman, the first gentleman's question, and he talked about, the police, and the police have been compromised and so on and so on. And maybe that is true. One of the arguments that I have made repeatedly when asked about this security situation in Lagos is to say that you cannot divorce it from the broader issues that we deal with as a society. And if you put security agents...
Sorry, can I take this in? So sorry.
Yeah.
That's the thing about live radio programs. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Rufai. Good morning, sir.
Morning. I've got Mr. Doherty here, governorship candidate, ADC here with me. Say
good morning to your guest in the studio.
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
My name is Chidi. I'm calling from Ogun State.
Okay.
Chidi, I want to talk of this out of a thing.
Okay.
Rufai, your analysis is right, but you go down below that. He who is talking to you on the studio has a better idea, because I have one. I am an artist and I have so many of them. You know what they do? They form association with all artisans, which bring a law that frustrates most of the artisans to drop their work. Once you drop their work, you don't have anything to do. They offer you this agro work. A young man was just graduated from these aluminum window producers, and now he's one of the agro to one of the kings in Lagos. They gave him one of the road to chase motor around, because they will make it unbearable for you to discover that once you set up to do something in Lagos from a scratch, there will be enforcement agencies that will come and frustrate you to drop that. And what everybody wants to succeed. I have another one who, on a daily basis, their Oga stays at home. He doesn't come to garage or whatever. This guy, on a daily basis, take to that man not less than 100,000. Sometimes he doesn't have money to eat. Sometimes when he sees that the money, his boss money is about to complete, he will beg some of the drivers to be a conductor to them for him to see money to take home. So the structure we start from dealing with the association that we create. Everybody has a right to associate. A vulcanizer in front of my shop sometimes run away because it's when we will be coming to collect money. The association will be chasing him to collect money, but sometimes take away his machine, and he has to bring the machine back with 5,000. Somebody who has not done a single work in a day. Please, when you become a governor,
Yes, sir.
how are we going to deal with this? And secondly, why can't we have a measure to take these people out of office? Why? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, please, that last question on this. So, he has given you the challenge. So, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like I've said, we will dismantle the pyramid. We'll dismantle the pyramid. We will by law, first of all, take away certain things, such as the collection of taxes and levies on the road, on the highway. Okay. So that if there are union dues or whatever it is, let them be collected in the same way that other union dues are collected. So that's an administrative thing. Then secondly, we will face the bottom of the pyramid. So the lowest level, or the gentlemen that you just talked about, who are barely taking home anything, and look for ways of replacing that income, moving them to other productive uses. There are many other ways. So, for example, one of the things we've talked about is waste management, increasing the recycling. That activity will require a lot of people. So it's another area where you can basically take people from unproductive activity, which is detrimental to society, to productive activity, which is useful for society. And we will do that. And by the way, as part of dismantling this structure, if there is a cost to government that is reasonable, why not? We will bear that cost to ensure that our people, 90% of our people, are not suffering from the activities of 10% of our people. Let me quickly address the police.
Address the police because calls keep coming in. A lot of calls.
Lots of calls, yes. Let me quickly address because the man must have been waiting for a long time.
Okay. Goodness. Quickly, please. 1 or 2, 20 seconds, please, I beg you, so that I can address the other question. What's your name? Where are you calling from, sir?
My name is Mr. Adi, I'm calling from Motor.
Good to have you, sir.
Please, I want to ask the government assistant that one thing they call executive education secretary in all this LCDA.
Education secretary?
Yes.
Yeah, in all this LGA, what happened to them?
LCDA, yes.
Yeah.
These people, do you know that these agri this who picked them in? It's what I've witnessed. I was there, so I don't want to mention the name of.
I'm not hearing you well, oh. Speak louder, please.
I am saying that this education secretary of each local government.
Yes.
I was one of the applicants when this agri called the governor of Lagos State, saying that the Lagos State government cannot approve somebody for them, that they have concluded. I had they were addressing the Your Excellency, a governor, addressing Agberu as Your Excellency. I want to ask the aspirant, if he gets there, will he be addressing Agberu as Your Excellency? Thank you.
Okay. He said somebody's address. They say a governor is, I don't know which governor is talking about. They say a governor is addressing Agberu as Your Excellency in Lagos. I mean, somebody has also told me that one day that I think it was in a ministry. Some Agberu people came out and they were trying to pacify them and they brought out guns. As they brought out everybody, they had to comply. So they've become the state.
They've become the state.
Police issue, will you address? And let's take this call. Tons of calls are coming in. That's why I like radio format. Hello, how are you?
Hello, good morning, sir.
Morning, bless you.
I like what you are discussing. I just want to contribute because that's my field.
Thank you. What's your name? And go ahead quickly. We've got Mr. Doherty, governorship candidate ADC here.
Okay, I'm Mr. Doherty from Sule.
Yes, Mr.
I'm a bus driver.
You're a bus driver, good.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent.
So that's what that makes me, how will I call it, more experience in what you are talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Tell us your experience. Yes. How much did they even collect from you? How much did they get from you every day as a bus driver?
Average of close to 10K a day.
They collect 10,000 naira from you a day.
It's up to close to 10K.
Close to 10K as a bus driver.
Yeah. Yes.
How many people do you pay this money to?
You know the way you work is that you pay when you load.
Yeah.
There is different levies there is different types they put on the levy. So you understand that you have to pay. And you must pay. because it's an inherited problem. It's what you meet on ground, so you must follow. Are you getting it? But to support you, those guys that are collecting, they just go with a commission.
Yes, little amount.
There is a certain amount their boss asks them to deliver. It is what they let it that they go with. If they don't meet up with it, they have to borrow money to pay. Are you with me?
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question, please? In your park or where you load, how many bus drivers are there? Because if you say each bus driver pay 10,000 every day, how many bus drivers are there in Lagos? I know you people have union. How many of you know about the bus drivers in Lagos?
You do you want me to tell you this?
Yes.
What are you talking about? At least you have an average of 20 bus in one section. You have other sections. You have Ojeleba, Mushin, and all that.
It's in thousands. It's in thousands. The number of buses in thousands.
Are you getting
it? So all those buses pay 10,000 every day to this Agbero?
I said I'm telling you. It is what I'm saying. I'm not telling you what I know that is happening.
See, Rufai, I know somebody who owns.
So you don't need to create any job. Government, you don't need to fund anything. Just create a ticket for this park. Let them pay. Sell the ticket for even this Agbero at some rate. Let them make their commission from it. Anybody that don't want to go by that, let them go and find another job.
Yeah. So it's a fraction
of
those resources.
This problem to solve.
Can solve it. Yeah.
It's because they don't want to solve it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Exactly right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Because you see, this is what feeds into the crime structure in Lagos. And a lot of people have argued that if you can solve the problem of Agbero in Lagos, over 40% of the problem in Lagos is solved.
Yeah, I said something on the last governorship debate. I said the most difficult problem to solve is the problem that you do not want to solve. This is the story of Agbero in Lagos. You don't want to solve.
Okay, so talk about the police on time. Because
so the police, that police
in.
point. I just wanted to make the point that look, you can't divorce the police situation from the broader society. I have made the point in the past that look, if you put people amongst your community, so we say that the police is a national force and so on. If you put people in your community, you give them guns. You say you are security forces, but you do not pay them. You pay them a pittance. They cannot feed their families. In many cases, they are away from their families. It is only a matter of time before those very people that you think of as security forces become the security challenge for your own community. They become predators within your community. So, again, this is another area of insincerity in our leadership, in our governance. We have to be sincere with ourselves. How much does a sergeant earn? How much does a commissioner of police earn? A commissioner of police, if you go and find out what is the salary of the Lagos State Commissioner of Police, you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked.
That is way richer than that, anyway.
Yeah? Well, of course, but how? You see, so let's be honest with ourselves and deal with problems.
Let's take this final call as we wrap things up. Hello, how are you? Hello, how are you?
Good morning.
Morning, sir. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Quickly.
My name is Sheni Oduyoye, and I'm calling from Festa Town.
Great to have you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Well, my comment on the discussion going on, one, we are talking of the Agberos. It's not only Agberos that are disturbing the society of Lagos. What about the Omoniles?
That's another kind of one.
What about the Omoniles?
Wow.
I do not believe that this problem has no solution. Lagos has become a lawless society. And unless there's a solution to every problem.
Yes.
My advice in this circumstance is that a think tank be set up to find an immediate solution to it. It is very, very serious issue. There is no society like this that I know of anywhere in the world. And as long as we don't find solution to it, we are all in danger. I will recall that during the Obasanjo regime, all these Oraisa and all these boys are retired expatriate policeman was commissioned, and they were all carted away from the street and taken into an island. I don't know where the island is, not Tabuaguda. All of them went to learn all sorts of skills, bricklaying, welding, electrical job, and Julius Berger and builders and architects and people went to recruit them. This is a lawless, chaotic, anarchy society. I'm sorry to be very, very emotional about this. We must find a solution to it. On the other hand, I'm glad that all this discussion is going on. How do we persuade people to trust them, to believe in their voter's card, and to go out to vote? The rumors that is circulating now is that people like me, who is very well advanced in age, are being advised to stay home. But I'm not staying home. I'm going out to vote.
Please don't stay home, sir.
I'm going out to vote.
Yes. How old are you, sir? If I may ask, how old are you, sir?
I'm going 90.
Wow.
By God's grace, I'll be 90 come June 29.
Fantastic.
Wow. We can't wait to celebrate your 90th.
Yes.
Wow.
For security reasons, I will not disclose my name.
Please don't. We wish
For security reasons, I will not disclose my name. Call me Mr. XYZ.
Wow.
Wonderful.
It's a very, very serious issue. Very, very serious. Very serious. I have not known any society like this in all my life. And I think, Mr. Rufai there, before you came on, there was another program in Yoruba talking about democracy and governance, good governance. They are talking about nationhood, nation building. How do we persuade the new generation, large in number, to come out to vote? This new generation, young people, have lost confidence, have lost faith in the nation. We need to encourage them, we need to persuade them, young and old, to come out to vote. If we don't come out to vote, we are finished as a nation.
Yes,
very true.
Let every man, woman, young and old, vote according to their conscience.
Exactly.
According to their conscience.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Luckily, everything has been politicized. Money is politicized. Petroleum is politicized. Police system has been politicized. I give you an example, practical example of police system. I had an issue, and I called the first town police station. I got a response from a policeman who said he has left the place, and the policeman offered to call the station on my behalf. He called so many times, I did not get a response. But some time ago, I just suddenly remembered that I had a number of emergency police calls from Abuja. I got it from Australia, from a Nigerian living in Australia. I called just one of those numbers. And believe me, police officers started reporting, not in ones, in twos, in threes, and in fives, in vehicles with guns. Why must this be? There's a lot wrong with the over-centralization. I have lived in this country when there was police system in the West, Old West, and I think we should when we are going to vote, people should know whom they vote into the National Assembly. The presidency is not only the issue, the gubernatorial issue is not the only issue. The issue is the National Assembly. And of course, there is a state assembly. State assembly are free to make their laws. I do not understand, I will not understand why Lagos State cannot pass a law to prohibit these Agberos and Amorile from the land, so that there can be peace in the land. Èkó ò ní gbàgbàkúgbà.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Èkó ò ní bàjẹ́.
Àmín. Ó bàjẹ́ sí.
Èkó ò ní bàjẹ́ lórúkọ Jésù. A ti rí good life lẹ́kọ̀ọ́. Why is that a good life more?
Ashimari, sir.
I believe that this election is going to take place.
Thank you.
It may not be perfect. It will take place. There may be dissatisfaction. The dissatisfaction will be managed.
Yes.
God is intervening in the matter of Nigeria.
Amen.
And we should continue to pray that God continues His intervention in the issue of Nigeria.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you all. God bless Rufai. God bless the governorship aspirant.
Thank you.
God bless all the presidential aspirants and all the gubernatorial aspirants and all those who are aspiring to go into the upper house and the lower house and the state houses.
Thank you, sir.
But I must say that if they don't have the fear of God, we have lost the fear of God. We don't respect God. God is in lightning. God is in thunder. God is in wind. God is God.
Thank you so much.
We are worshiping money. Worshiping money, and this is where worship of money has landed us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. What a way to end the show. After that fatherly blessed by a man of 90 soon. And Baba, please, we'll celebrate you in advance on your 90th birthday.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. You've got last word as a wrap of the show.
Well, I mean, I think the last caller said a lot. And this is a deep conviction that we have. And that's why it's a central part of our agenda. The last point, the R, which is rule of law and public order. It's very important, very missing in Lagos of today. In many ways, I grew up in Lagos from primary school and on. My family obviously has been in Lagos in centuries. The Lagos today, we have more technology, yes, we have mobile phones, etc., etc. But in many ways, living in Lagos feels like it's a more primitive environment than the Lagos we grew up in. And I think the big part of that is this question of rule of law and public order. And I think that this is just it's just a golden opportunity for us, not just for Nigeria, but also for Lagos, for everybody to stand up and say, you know what, it's time. 2023 is the time.
Thank you so much. All right, that's about all we can take today on the show. You can watch it again. You can listen to the podcast, Rufai Speaks. Watch it again on YouTube, Voice of the People 90.3 page. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you for your time. Bless you all.
Thank you, Rufai. Thank you.
Bless you.